All right. So what we're going to do in the next 30 or so minutes is I'm going to teach you how to get every single EVM question right without even thinking about it. All right. It's going to be kind of fun. So that's a big claim. So I came up with this crazy, simple, weird way to get every EVM question right without trying, even if you're bad at math. Now, are you bad at math?
Yeah, I'm pretty slow when it comes to calculating things.
Don't worry about it. As long as you can use a little baby calculator and do a little bit of logic, you are good to go. All right. So I'm going to walk you through some foundations. I'm going to act like you don't know anything. All right. Is that cool?
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. All right. So let me see. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about is what are EVM problems? So like EVM out there has a lot of different types of problems and they appear to be really complex, but there are two things that they're really asking, okay? And the two things that they're really, really asking are, how are we doing on this project right now? And the second thing they're asking is, how are we going to do in the future? All right? So, I mean, you think about it, it's like anytime your boss in project management comes to you and they're checking on the project, they ask you those two things. How are we doing today? And are we going to do bad or good in the future? And what can we do to get better? Right? So that's pretty simple. That's what EVM does just in math. And it's pretty simple. So when we start thinking about those two questions, all these metrics that we have, CV, SV, CPI, SPI, all that stuff, those are all related to how we're doing right now. Okay? So these other things, and we'll talk about those in depth, these other ones, EAC, VAC, ETC, CPI, TCPI, those are future things. How are we doing in the future? Are we on path to say what we did, what we're going to do at the beginning? Those kind of things. All right? So do you, and then these last things, this BAC, EV, PV, and AC, those are just, like, think of those as the blood or the oil that gets the engine going. Those are the things that you need to answer those questions. How are we doing now? And how are we going to do in the future? All right? And those little things can tell you some stories about what's happening right now. So just before we go deeper, let's talk about what each metric means. All right? So we'll go back and forth. What does BAC stand for?
Budget at completion.
Nailed it. So what is budget at? That just means like what we think we're going to spend. That's what we've allotted to spend through the entire project, right? Like that's the budget at completion, right? What is the EV mean?
The
what does
earned value.
Yeah. And what does that
value.
mean? What does it mean to me?
How well you've done so far.
How well you've done? How do you, yeah. Yeah, give me a little bit more. No, that's okay.
I guess where we are with the project now.
Yeah, in a sense, EV, earned value. It's what's the value of all the work that we've completed at this point. So we're building, say, 10 buildings. We've completed half of them. What would be and this is not a question, what would be the value of those 5 buildings that we've completed? That would be the earned value. If each one is worth $1 million, we've earned, in a sense, EV-wise, $5 million bucks, right? All right, so the plan value, if we use that building analogy, at the point when we've completed 5 buildings, if we said at this point we should have been done with 6 buildings, then that's the plan. We should have been done with that at that point, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So it'd be $6 million bucks. And then the actual cost is like, hey, we spent, $2 million bucks to get it done because we were cheap and that's the actual cost, right? So these other things, CV, SV, all these other things kind of give you comparisons. So as we go into this deeper, we need to understand the two questions a little bit better. So when we think about how we're doing right now, like, let me just give you a weird example. So I think I'm 37 years old. I could be 36 or 38. I'm not good with that. I'm 37, all right? I'm about 6 foot tall in height. Let me ask you, am I tall?
Sure.
Really?
Yeah.
So you say that with fair confidence, right? Like, what did you need to answer that question to say if I'm tall?
Your height is 6 feet.
Right, but I mean, like, so you got that basic stuff, basic facts. I'm 37-ish, and I'm 6 foot tall. But like, what else did, like, if I would have told you I was 5'1", am I tall?
No.
If I'm 7 foot, am I?
Yeah, you're very tall.
Very tall. So what are you doing? What's the difference between 5'1" and 7'1"? What are you using to marry? Like, it's a standard. You're bouncing that against a standard in your brain without even thinking about it. Right?
Yeah.
And if we think about standards, like if I went to the NBA, am I tall?
No.
If I went to like the 4th grade class at the local elementary school, am I tall?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, right? So it's all comparisons of whatever. So when we think about the EVM questions that ask us, in a sense, how are we doing right now? Like if we just get that number in to say, instead of 6 feet tall, we said we've spent $2 million or we've completed 5 buildings or whatever, we can't go off that in itself. We can't say, oh, we've completed 5 buildings. Are we doing good or not? You don't have enough information to answer that question of how we're doing right now. You have to say, well, what should we have done by this point? Is this what we compare against NBA height or 4th grader height? Those kind of things. So that's really what we're doing. And what are we doing, or how are we doing right now? We need a standard. And do you have any, in the project management and PMBOK world, do you have any idea what that standard would be that we'd use to compare against?
No.
Come on, you know it.
Is that
it's the base? Yeah.
Baseline.
Yeah, it's the baseline. And so that's why we use those plan value, earn value, and actual cost. Plan value is what should be done. What earn value is what is done, and actual cost is what has been spent. So if we go a little, okay, let's think about this crazy. Like, all right, I'm a growing boy, pretty grown, all right? But as I was growing up, like when I was 15, you would evaluate me against 15-year-olds. What should be my height at 15? That would be my planned height value, right? Like my earned height value is what I actually am. I'm 5'1" or whatever I was. And the actual cost, I can't think of a relative, thing for that. But what it cost to get me to 5.1 or whatever. And then as I went along that baseline, there's probably a height or weight curve for humans where they can evaluate you to say, hey, you're above or below right now. Like babies, 12 weeks in, you're like, oh, or when you're having a baby, my wife's had a couple of babies, you say like, he's in the 56th percentile in weight right now. Okay, well, that's cool. But they're comparing them against like, 32 weeks of gestation and stuff like that, right? So we need that standard in how we're doing right now. All right, so the second question was, how are we doing in the future? And just the example is like, we as a family or something is saving $10,000 a year. How much will I have when I retire? That's a good way to think about it. Now, to answer that question, help me out. Like, we need the basic facts of like my current total savings that I have in the bank, and then what I'm saving every year, that 10 grand. But you also need like some other things. You need like the expected duration, the length of I'm going to live and work, what the saving rate, if it's going to stay the same, how much do I actually need? Those are the same kind of like logics that you're doing on those second type of questions when you're doing, estimate to complete, estimate at completion, variance at completion, and to complete cost performance index. So I'll relate it to the saving example. So our estimate at completion would be, say, hey, I'm retiring at 65 or whatever people retire at. I'll never retire. I can't stop working. Like I'm 37 right now. We've learned that, and I'm almost 6 foot tall. I save 10 grand a year or whatever I do. And then I can calculate how much money I'd have estimate at completion right now. 37, when I get to 65, I'm going to have bloop in the bank, a certain amount of money. That's estimate at completion. Now, and in the money sense, in the saving money sense, estimate to completion, say I have a certain amount of money in the bank right now. I just predicted what I will have in the future. What's the difference that the money that will come in later? So X amount of money will come in later. That's estimate to completion. How much is left to be done? All right. And then the variance at completion will be how much I'm off of my goal. I really dreamed up that my goal at savings was be this level, but based on my projections, I'm going to be at a different level. That's variance at completion. And then if I said, oh goodness, I plan to save a bunch more when I was 65, I would say, based on my projections, what we just talked about, I'm off of that. I'm going to be 100,000 or whatever short. So in order to hit that goal, whatever it is, I have to change my saving rate. And I have to bump it up to 12 grand a year or whatever. So that's the 2 complete cost performance index. That just means now when we go back to cost, I'm just playing with the metaphor here. We're just saying, what do we need to change about the project? How much better or worse could we get in order to hit a goal? That's what 2 complete performance index stands for. All right. So are you super confused or are you hanging along?
No, I think I got it.
All right. I can dig that. All right. So let me tell you about like the 3 secrets why traditional EVM solving is wrong and foolhardy. But before I do that, tell me how you approach EVM questions.
Well, the way that I was taught in my class that I took was just to solve for the, get the BAC, PV, plan value, earn value, and actual cost. But trying to decipher those from the problems is a little bit challenging for me.
Okay, good. That's good to know. So yeah, that's good. So like what a lot of people do is they blindly memorize without understanding for the EVM questions. And then during the exam, they just try to search for the perfect question or the perfect equation, right?
Right.
And yeah, so like, did that feel kind of like what you do sometimes? Like, oh, I got to find this perfect gold question because the time is clicking away. I got to get there, right?
Yeah, sometimes.
It's scary. Really, that puts you at a big risk because it's not a method. There's no control of that. And goodness, finding the right question is difficult, or the equation is difficult. And so it puts you a big opportunity to mix the question. Now, the fact that people don't realize, and you might realize this now, is that nearly all EVM questions require that you use multiple EVM equations. Okay? So like searching for the one perfect, you're going to have to do that a couple times in a sense. You're going to get there and you're going to, I got the perfect, they're trying to ask me to solve something. I found that little baby equation. And then you realize, oh goodness, I got to do it again. And I got to do it again so that they all feed in together. And so once you realize that, hey, this is multiple equations are usually required to solve these EVM questions, then you go, okay, I have to have a method. And what I said, what I realized is following a path makes it a lot easier to solve these questions. So we don't want to memorize, but we're going to have a method, to organize these equations. We understand there's going to be multiple formulas that are going to have to be used. Totally cool. And then we're going to follow a path. So to, emphasize that point, we're just going to show a problem here. And we're going to say like, oh goodness, we might be in trouble. So like, here's a pretty hard problem. We don't have to read it. It just says, I'll read it. Why don't we do this? You're the project manager of a project to widen a 10-mile stretch of freeway. The approved budget's $50 million. The approved schedule's 40 weeks. After 22 weeks, your team has completed 6 miles of freeway and $32 million has been spent. Calculate the ETC. Now, we know ETC is estimate to completion. I even gave you all the equations over there. Let's you and I I'm going to put a timer on it, for 63 seconds, try to solve this problem. All right. So let me set it. Go. How would we do this?
So your budget at completion is 50 million.
Okay, cool. I wrote that down. BAC is 50 million.
Your planned value, we don't have that right now. And then your earned value is.
You got to calculate.
Yeah.
It's really good that you start with the basics. very, very few. I'm saying 1 out of 100, and I'm pausing the time. Do start that way. And that is a really good way to start. And that's the foundation of what I'm going to teach you as well. But like, okay, so we're going to get these basics. Say we got those basics. What do we do next?
Then we have to figure out what the formula is to get the ETC. So we would need the EAC and the CPI.
There you go. And then you got to find those two equations, right?
Yeah.
And then you got to solve for those babies. And then you got to put them all in there together and solve for the whatever. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So you got a pretty good understanding of like how to solve the problems, but what's the one thing that's kind of standing in your way? Like, does it feel easy now? Are you like saying, Scott, shut up and I'll solve the problem and I'll see you later, or what? Like, how are you feeling currently?
I guess, yeah, since the planned value isn't really standing out to me, how would I identify what that is from this problem?
I'll teach you in a couple minutes. I swear, we're going to go through this problem. Okay. So the one thing I want you to learn just from this is that like, even like you have a good foundation that, hey, I have to follow a process, which is cool. But like how we organize the equations, we want to do it in a really organized way to help us solve the problem. So what we'll do is, this is my template and we'll solve this problem using my template. Okay. So we'll go through all those questions that you had. So what I'll do is I'll walk you through my template. All right. So this is my template. Ooh. Let me use the other thing. So what it has is 3 sections.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We'll put the laser pointer on. This top section is those givens that you talked about. Expertly you picked up. I have to get my givens down. Then this section in the middle are those equations that are, how are we doing right now? These bottoms are how are we going to do in the future? Projections. Okay. 3 sections.
Okay.
Simple as that. And so it just lays it out. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through and we're going to solve the basics, right? First. And then we know we have to go, what are we doing? ETC? We know we have to get here.
Yeah.
All right. So what we would do is we would mark this and I'll go on and take it off the pointer and we'll go back to this. And so first thing we do is we mark where we're going. We'll just walk through the thing. So we know we're solving that. So we put a little star or something by it, ETC. Then we say, like you did, even before we do the BAC, we say, what do we need in there? So we know we need those little thingies.
Yeah.
So we mark that, right? And then we go and we start with the basics. All right. And so let's go through one by one. What's the BAC in this problem? I highlighted some important junk up here.
So 50 million.
I think that's correct. All right. So let's talk through PV, plan value. And I wrote this little thing over here, work that should be done. So how would we think through that?
So that would be the 10-mile section of the freeway.
Okay, so so when we think the work that should be done, so you're going to use that 10-mile section. So what's when the whole project's done, how much freeway are we going to actually complete?
10 miles.
10 miles, right? So that's the whole kit and caboodle, right? So right now, how much the work that should be done? Like how would you figure out should, like at this point in time, should be done?
That would be that schedule variance formula, I guess.
With these PVs and stuff, with BAC through AC, the only way you'll get this stuff is if you are given it or you infer it based on the number, right? So let me just give you a little hint here. Okay, so how long is we know we're going to do 10 miles of freeway. How long is it going to take? How long should it take to do?
40 weeks.
40 weeks. Sweet. All right. So we know it should take 40 weeks. How many weeks has it been so far?
22 weeks.
There we go. So 22 divided by 40. So we know we're like 22 over 40% are done, right? Like we're 22 weeks out of the whole 40 weeks. So what's that? I'm doing a little math on my calculator. You do it too. Please.
0.55.
There you go. All right, so we're 55% done with the work. And then like, what's the, either we can do this two different ways. Like we can figure out how much mileage we've done and what each mile's worth, or we can figure out what the total, if you have the budget at completion, you can just multiply it times the total budget. So what's 55% of the total budget? What's the total budget? You already know that, 50 million bucks, right?
Yeah, 50 million. 27.5.
Let me see if you're right. Holy cowbells. You got it right. So did you see what we did there? We said we had to double think ourselves through this one to say plan value should be done. So like how far am I into this project? How much work have I completed? And then what is that work worth in a sense? Because there's only 50 million to play with here.
Right. Okay.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
All right. Now let's talk me through the earned value. And that means what is done, the value of the work that is currently completed.
So you have 6 miles done so far.
There you go.
And then you've already spent 32 million. So,
but here, let me get you real quick. So here's a good rule of thumb. Anytime we do plan value, earn value, and actual cost, we need a standard to compare it against. So we're most likely always going to use budget at completion as our general rule. Okay, either budget at completion or a rate at which we should be spending money. Okay, so like when we say we don't care about, when we think about each row here, earn value, AC, PV, just think about that. Try not to bring in AC or PV when you're talking about EV. So when we say what is done, you already said we've completed what, 6 miles of this road? Sweet.
Yeah.
And then we know either like what's the value of a mile? We could do it that way, or we could say what's the total value of the highway, and we figure out what 6 miles is worth in that respect. Kind of like we did in the previous example where we got a percentage of the of being completed. So what percentage of road has been completed up to right now?
1.66.
Percentage of the road.
Oh, whoops.
You got this.
About 60%.
Yeah, there you go. You had the numbers upside down. Yeah, that's okay. I knew they were right. I just wanted you to flip them in your brain. So we've completed 60% of the road. Doesn't matter how much we should be done. Doesn't matter how much we spent. We just worry about what we've actually done. And so what's the value of that 6 miles?
The 32 million.
Is it 32?
30. Okay.
Why is it 30? Other than the math isn't right in front of you. Why is that math correct?
I'm not quite sure.
That's good. It's good. It's no problem. All right. So the reason why is because we say, hey, we're only thinking about this row. What is done? And they're saying, imagine paid for every mile. Like they come to you with a big old check, like you won the lottery, and they said, hey, you completed, there's $50 million to be made in this game. You get paid after every mile. And so what we said was, well, we've done, and you know, they've been late on the checks. So like we got 6 miles done. We say, hey guys, show up and give us our ginormous fake check. And we said of the 60% of the 50 million, they just cut that check, 60% of it, and they give us 30 million. That's the value. They don't actually give us the money, but that is the value of what we've completed at this point. So it all has to be relative to a standard, right? And so if we had completed 7 miles right now, the value would be, 0.7 times 30, which is 20. I can't do the math in my head. But yeah, 0.7 times 50, sorry, 35 million.
It'll be 15. Yeah. Okay.
Yep, there you go. So actual cost. You got that one. I know you got that one.
The actual cost is 32 million.
Didn't even have to do any math. All right. So that's good. So now we know like the basics, and you were already on the basics train. So that's good. So, all right, here's the next thing. Like now we just use the template and we say, we've already put dots next to what we know we need. We don't know what values that we currently have, you know, but we just know we need these values because we started from ETC and we worked our way up. And like you told me earlier, you need CPI and you need EAC. So let's not jump ahead. Let's just solve CPI.
Okay.
And you already have the values laid out nice and methodically above. So it's just plug and chug.
Great. So for CPI, we have 0.93.
There we go. And the good thing with math is try not to round much until you get to the answer.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Because it'll make a difference. Like, so let's just write out like 0.9375. Like, you don't want to go to like the 68th decimal point, but you just want to put a couple there. 0.9375. That's pretty good.
Okay.
So then the next thing, what do we do next? You're next.
The EAC.
You know it.
So, let's see. So 53.33 is the EAC.
Oh, look at the screen. Did you get it right? I think you got it right.
Yeah.
So you're going. There you go. All right, and then the next thing we do, we just use those values: EAC minus AC.
Okay. Oops. Minus AC. Oh, I hit the wrong button here.
It happens.
21.33 million.
Magic.
Oh, okay.
That's correct. That's correct. So it's still difficult, right? Still a little tricky.
Yeah.
So, so we kind of talked through what were some learnings that you had in that? Like, what are some, I don't expect, like, we're not done, but about the process or about some of the things. Let's start at the top. Like, how are you thinking about these 4 basic given variables? Like, how are you going to approach those going forward?
I think just breaking it down, like you said, by remembering what each of those are, like for plan value, work that should be done, and then earn value, what's already done. Those are the 2 things that I think I was just kind of struggling what those actually mean.
Yeah.
And then how you have it laid out on the 2 sections, how you have it in 2 tiers of the 2 sections as far as like the what should be done and what is done kind of thing. So those kind of help too.
Cool. Yeah, that's cool. So yeah, we start at the top. That's like their givens, and then the middle is like how we're doing right now. And then like let's talk about this CPI real quick. Let's just talk, because a lot of questions on the EVM type questions are, some of them are going to be math. This is like I picked one that was a variable that was way down the chain and it required 2 other equations, right? This CPI.
Right.
It all won't be this difficult. Maybe they'll ask you to solve CPI. Now we would do the same exact thing that we did here. We would do the basics.
Right.
We'd find out what it is. Now that CPI 0.9375 mean to you?
What was that? Sorry, you broke up on that.
That's okay. How is the project doing with a CPI of 0.9375?
It's behind schedule, I think.
Okay. Right. Yeah. Why?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's just play the game. Let's say like, what's it going to look if nothing changes and we continue to perform at the same rate and spin at the same rate? Are we going to be above or below our budget at the end of the game, at the end of the project?
Above our budget.
Right, right, right. And could you potentially figure out, you know, what equation would you use to figure out what that would be? How much we would be above that right now?
I don't know.
I give
Would
you a
it
hint.
be?
It's
Would
only
it be
it's
the
one we have.
TCPI?
TCPI? No, it's one of the other
Oh,
ones that
no.
you write something on, in.
Oh, okay.
There's only one more. There's only 5 variables that we did write something in, and they're not the top ones, and they're not the one you used.
Oh, okay.
And it starts with a V.
Oh, the variance.
Yeah. So if we said, you just told me that based on our 0.9375, at the end of the project, if nothing changes, we're going to be above budget in the bad way, right? And so what you just told me is, if you see that budget line going up like that, our line is going to be up a high above that. And then those two, the points that are difference, how much we're off, how much we've spent more than our budget, that is our variance at completion.
Oh,
So like
okay.
variance difference, you know, variance when we're done. Variance when we're done. Maybe that's a very, that's what they wanted to call it, but variance at completion is a cleaner name. And so what that tells us, and if we look at the actual equation, variance at completion equals the budget at completion, which is set at the beginning. We don't get more than 50 million bucks.
Right.
Minus the estimate at completion, which is, that's the thing you told me, hey, we're going to miss our budget in the bad way. And we just calculated that's going to be we're going to spend 53 million bucks. So in your brain right now, like this variance at completion tells us that we are going to spend, you know, 3 million bucks, 3.3 million bucks more than we thought we'd spend on this project, unless something changes.
Right.
Right. And so if I worked for you and I came to you and said, hey man, I got some bad news. We're going to spend 3.3 million more than we thought. And you were not cool with that. What would you tell me to do?
Try to figure out how to get it done within the 50 million that we have. Right
on. And then I started to tell you reasons, and I was like, well, we could do this and we could do that, and we could use different asphalt and different. You can go, dude, I don't care. I don't care how you get it done. All I care is that you perform at this rate. You're at 0.9375 now. To hit your number, you need to perform at this different cost performance index rate. I don't care how you do it. Just perform at this different rate. That rate would be your TCPI. All right? That's what that means. It says, dude, I don't care how you do it. Just don't do it how you're doing it now. Don't perform how you're doing now. Perform at a better rate. And is that number, TCPI, going to be higher or lower than 0.9375 in this example?
It should be higher.
Is it going to be less than 1 or more than 1?
It should be more than 1.
Why?
Because it's increasing its timeline, I guess, or whatever
Almost.
It's increasing his rate of completion.
Right. It's
because he's below, or they're behind now, so right. 1 or above would be better.
Yeah, mandatory to get us back to that goal, right? Yeah. So that's right. So like if we start at the beginning, like day 1, and we were a little bit off it, it would be like, oh, a little bit above 1 from now on. But like, since we're 60% done with this project, right? We've completed 6 miles. He's going to have to go on the other side for this last 40%. So you're innately correct. Your assumptions were right to say, oh gosh, it's got to be way above 1, or, you know, a good amount above 1. Right? And so what I'm trying to do is kind of walk you through what VAC and TCPI seem like literal alien words to me. Like, and I'm trying to get them to be human words. Right? And so, Yeah. So now you know that variance at completion is like, if we keep going how we're going, we're going to be above or below our budget. BAC. Cool. TCPI is like, dude, get back to where we said we were and just increase that rate or decrease it. Or if, you know, it's the other side, we could metaphorically take our foot off the gas and we could perform at a poorer rate. So that's, now you understand top to bottom what everything means. Except we didn't talk about CV and SV. But we're good. All right, so the next problem that you have is, how do we make this thing?
Mm-hmm.
Getting ideas? I do. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you a weird way. How many minutes are we in? We're 36 minutes in, all right? So you have the method. Now, I have a couple minutes to teach you how to do this. All right.
Okay.
I have a warning. This is weird, but it's going to be okay. All right. It's not like weird, like too weird, but here you go. All right. So the first thing I need you to say back to me is B, P, S, C. Okay. Say those words.
BPSC.
There you go. And so that's how we remember this top section. B, P, and it's actually P like the vegetable. All right. Because look here. B, P, E,
oh, yeah.
A. That's cool,
Okay.
right? So
yeah.
B, P, S, C. What's my name? Do you know my name? What's my name?
Scott.
Yeah. What's the first two letters of my name?
SC.
There you go. So what we do is we say BPSC because Scott's a weirdo, and you put the little things. You draw this box of 4 thingies, you know, like 4 little rows, right? And then you just write BPSC and that, or BP and SC. And see where I wrote the S right between these two and the C right here?
Yeah.
And then I made this little dotty dot. To me, this looks like a sideways butterfly. All right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
All right. And so the reason why we wrote that, I'm choked up. I'm so emotional about this, is that when we go down here and we say, how are we going to write this section, which is the how are we doing right now? We know there's 4 things we have to remember. We go from top to bottom. We say, all right, S. That makes me think of schedule variance. All right?
Okay.
Equals. Now we start at the butterfly's body. You can name the butterfly whatever you want to. And we say EV, right there, minus, follow the butterfly wing out, PV.
Okay.
You see how that like butterfly guided you to how to get SV and CPI or SPI?
Yeah.
I told you it was weird,
yes.
right? All right. And so the same thing, like, look, like right here and right here, same equation. Only thing is different is this thingy.
Right.
So you already got SV and SPI. Boom, done.
Okay.
Now, you use the butterfly because C's below S. You start, hey, I'm going to get that CV and CPI. Sweet. I'm going to start at the butterfly. EV minus AC. Right? Same thing, drops down. Sweet. All right, now we're halfway done. Now, the weird part starts. All right, so then the next thing you need to know is first. Okay, and that means first. No. It's last, sorry. Last, first. So there's only 2 things you need to remember to say. BPSC right now, last, first. Not that hard to say. So the last thing we ever wrote was this. At this point in the game, EV right AC kind of looks like EAC. Best I can do for you. Then that's the last thing. What's the first thing we wrote in the entire world?
BAC.
BAC equals BAC. And then the first thing we wrote in the last equation is this CPI.
CPI.
So that gives you the stuff. All right, so last, first. BPSC, last, first. It's just weird.
Okay.
All right, sweet. Then we know that there's 4 equations here. And we know, hey, like, not everybody likes me. I know that. And that's really cool. And this EAC guy doesn't like me either. So he says, Scott, I am out of here, bro. Like, he wants to leave. And we know that every equation has 1, 2, 3 things in it, right? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And so this guy, when he leaves, he has to go in a straight line. I don't know why, but he gets put in the middle one here and he gets put in the last one there. All right.
Okay.
And then once this guy leaves, the guy next to him says, dude, I'm out too, bro. He jumps right there and he's out of this game. Okay?
Okay.
All right. You'll have this video. You can rewatch it. You can do whatever. Okay? We've already gotten this entire equation. So we've done that. We have most of this entire equation. Then the next thing you need to remember that we're going to say is E, V, A, T, A. I don't know why. It just came to me in my sleep. EEV, ATA. 3 things.
Okay.
EEV, ATA. EEV, ATA. You can say it. You can sing it if you want to.
Okay.
E V A T A. And you know that everything ends in the C.
Yep.
All right. So we got this, we got this, we got this, we got this, we got this. We're almost done. We really are almost complete. Almost. I can't spell. I don't know how these people do it. I'm not going to spell. I'm going to try to get complete. Complete. Almost complete. AC. AC. And I'm aware that this looks like a crazy person's writing on a screen, but in my book and in my videos, it's clearly defined. So now we have all 3 of these equations done. And then the last thing that we need to do is we need to go. You ever heard that 8375309, 8675309 song?
Yes.
All right, so we're gonna go 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8. It makes you think of that. 8, 1, 3, 1, 4. 8, 1, 3, 1, 4, 9. No, don't think of it hard.
Okay.
And then that helps you remember TCPI. And to give you the God's honest truth, I can't remember these equations now without this. I swear to you, I can't. So 8, 1, 3, 1, 4. 8, 1, 3, 1, 4. So really, to get this right, all you have to remember is 5 things. BPSC, that gives you this thing. Last, first. EEV, ATA. Then almost complete. And then 8, 1, 3, 1, 4, 09. All right, so that's how you solve these problems. All right, that's it. All right, and so
okay.
All right, so that's it. And I'll just give you one more section. Like this is it. So what you want to do when you go through the exam is in the exam, just practice this a couple times. This basic thing, drawing this out, solving problems using this thing. What time is it right now? I got a little bit of time. And then basically you want to get this down. When you walk into the exam, just draw this out. Use your little mnemonic that we taught, all those little BPSC, whatever. And then leave it to the side. Blank sheet of paper over to the side. You know, you write it down, put it over there. And then every time you have an EVM problem, you just look at your little piece of paper. You take a new little piece of paper. You just copy it really quickly. It's really simple. Then you go through your problem solving process. And we said you were already dead on it. And you said, figure out where I'm going. Figure out my givens. Remember to use BAC as like a kind of way to guide through these. Take each row by itself. Path out where you got to go. And then solve. And then smile. And that's it. That's how you solve EVM problems, and you don't have to worry about them ever again.
pretty straightforward and much easier than the way I was trying to do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's so like, let's think about what you got to do now. You just got to like, this has been weird. I'll finish this video and then like kind of just decompress on like practice, like the template. This looks so bad. I don't know why I started writing template. It's like a long word. I could have just said it. Practice the template a couple times, get it down, and then go back to like EVM problems and just try to solve some and just try to use the template and then like, yeah, just go for it. And that's the way you do it. And so you'll be fine.
Okay.
It's
awesome.
been fun.
Thank you.
If you have any questions, please let me know. And I'm glad, yeah, let me know how your exam goes. I'm sure you'll do great.
All right. Thank you.
See ya. Bye-bye.